everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. We've taken the show on the road, top secret, where we're at, what we're doing, how we're doing it, yada, yada, yada. I want to thank Mr. T for the great promotional introductory videos. He's helped us out, stepped in, and done a great job making some good material. Folks, as much as we want our production value to be high, as much as we want it to be entertaining, it has to be hard-hitting. It has to be hard-hitting. And folks, it has hit the fan, and everything is hard-hitting. This show will be no different. So sit down if you have to. Get a drink if you must. Put on a seatbelt if you feel a little bit nervous. And we're going to get there. We're going to get there. You know, that right there is a hell of a good promotional piece, huh? All righty. We got lubricated up. Folks, we're in big trouble. I've got the top half of the hour. You guys get the bottom half. Get your questions into Jolene. We'll do Q&A soon. But for now, I want to explain to you how much trouble we're in. The reputedly, supposedly, allegedly President of the United States, Joe Biden, was laughed at yet again. This time not by world leaders, but by the WNBA champion team and others there. He got laughed at because he tried taking a knee, and it was very awkward as they came to visit him at the White House. And this is what I have to say about it, right? It was disgusting for him to do that. It was a humiliation directed at America. When the president takes a knee, folks, especially in the context it was taken, which is with a sports team, because for the past, 2 years, during the national anthem and during the display of our American flag, anti-American scumbags have been taking a knee, and he has now mimicked that. The president, the leader of our country, taking a knee. Folks, to take a knee is to surrender. Surrender. When you take a knee, it's surrendering. It is showing weakness. This is vomitous. The flag that defeated Hitler, the flag that broke the Soviet Union, is the American flag. The flag that saved Europe and the Pacific from the Axis powers in World War II and was there also in World War I, and the flag that grew to the flag it is now from the American colonists who sacrificed, bled, and many died to gain freedom for America and served as the shining example of hope, prosperity, and freedom to the whole world to strive for. And this piece of crap fascist, totalitarian pretender of a president takes a knee. Takes a knee. He should be impeached for this, folks. It's disgusting. Abandoning Americans in Afghanistan and dismantling the greatest fighting force in the world, the United States Armed Forces, which is now comprised of fighting men who have been replaced with tarted up imposters as commissioned officers. This entire White House and administration it's beyond shameful, folks. Is it any surprise shit has hit the fan? Expect more, not good things, but more of this kind of garbage from the White House and this president. It is horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Now, let us move on if we shall. as if that should be the whole show. Like, all right, good talking to you guys. I'll see you later, right? But wait, there's more. Newsmax reporter comes out, and they say the number being kind of thrown out today is 4,000. Number of Americans evacuated from Afghanistan. We've heard numbers, folks. Anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000 Americans were there. And they've got a number, 4,000. We've evacuated 4,000 Americans. It's 1 week from the deadline, folks. Now, according to the Biden White House, 21,000 civilians were evacuated from Kabul in the last 24 hours alone. How many planes is that, folks? Right? How many? It's incredible. 21,000. Now, I know the number is massive and huge, and I know the effort should be massive and huge. I've heard that a private company has been chartering planes trying to get people out of there. Can anyone see this as anything other than a giant clusterfuck under the Biden administration? Absolutely. They can't get us a number of people that were abandoned by our government. They can't get us a number of people who were rescued. They don't know what number they've got anymore. And to me, it just shows us who are these left-wing globalist socialist idiots. They're the people running the show, folks. Now, this is a Patreon only story. And we've got a lot of these folks at Patreon, and I started with the new promo on Patreon that, yeah, they've knocked us off the air before, and they'll probably do it again at some point. And if you're on Patreon, you won't miss a beat. Won't miss a beat. So I want you over on Patreon, but there's a great story about a California man who was passed out in a car with 300 unopened tax forms and forged licenses, meaning counterfeit licenses, right? Meaning illegal criminal licenses. How very interesting. I wrote up a little, shall we say, opinion, because I like to do opinion, but it's only available on Patreon, because if I say too much, that would be saying too much. And the people on the left can't stand that. Can't stand that, because they are a bunch of disgusting Marxists. And speaking of disgusting, we have a disgusting example of an injustice. I want to tell you what has happened, and then you can think for yourself and come to your own conclusion, though. The Proud Boys leader, Enrique Tarrio, he was sentenced to 5 months in jail for burning a BLM flag. Does that sound about right? Does that sound fair? Does that make sense to you? 5 months in jail for burning a flag. You can burn the American flag. Not a crime, no jail sentence. BLM, Antifa, Black Bloc communist punks. Let's see, they can burn police stations, they can burn courthouses, they can launch fireworks at police, lasers, throw rocks, bricks, bottles at policemen and walk free. They can burn businesses, loot businesses, and murder people. And very few folks, very, very few of them go to jail, while we see hundreds just running and rampaging through the streets. But we can't have a guy burn a flag. It's not even a flag, folks. The BLM flag is a piece of material. See, flags are carried by the military. They represent nations. BLM is not a nation. Oh, and neither is the rainbow flag. It is not a nation. It might be a symbol of things. And yeah, BLM is a Marxist group, an anti-American communist organization. So if their symbol is a flag and their idea, right, Joe Biden, is communism, I think that might deserve a match or two. You bet, folks. That's a disgusting example of injustice. Once again, can we rely on the executive branch in this country? Biden, no. How about the legislative branch? House Representatives and the Senate? No, you can't count on it. Can we count on the Supreme Court of the United States? No, we can't. We can't count on the court system, folks. It comes down to you and me. We have to fight, argue, debate for ourselves, because there's no one in Congress that's going to do it the way we will. I do recommend, though, texting, emailing, calling him and saying, stand up and fight for once. There is no second place when you're fighting against communism. Absolutely incredible. And speaking of second place, there is no second place, folks, in dealing with the Taliban. The Taliban spokesman basically told the Biden administration some new rules. No Afghanis will be allowed to leave the country. You know what that means, folks? That means they're not going to let them into the airport anymore. They're done. Right? That's basically a death sentence for anyone that the Taliban is after. If they can't leave the country, and the Taliban just says, hey, that's it. It's not happening. The Taliban continues to tell the Biden administration, the most shameful, disgusting, vomitous president we've had. He's starting to make Obama look like he's middle of the road. And it's not that I have any love for Barack Hussein, Barry Soetoro, Obama. Not a bit. And I tell you, I want to talk about this guy that I like to think of as a little asshole. Before I do that, before I do that, I got to be careful, right? The little asshole, you know who. He says the time has come. Enough is enough. And this person dismisses our freedoms. Our freedoms. You can get this whole story, the whole thing on Patreon, but I'm going to give you a little taste of it here, what I can get away with. Now, I just want to describe it to you this way. As Martians in Mars Attacks, the little movie, as Martians destroyed the world, they kept saying, we come in peace, right? It was a joke. They're saying they come in peace, yet all they're doing is murdering and blowing things up. It's a movie. It's a joke. But the stupid Democrat president in the movie, the limp-wristed fool, played marvelously by Jack Nicholson, kept believing them and kept getting destroyed. So the Martians destroyed our world while saying we come in peace. Today, folks, and this is not in a Hollywood movie, we have a real destroyer of our world and our civilization who pretends to be good, then shows us exactly what he is. He is one of our greatest adversaries ever. And I want to give you some excerpted quotes. In other words, I can't tell you everything he said, but I can give you stuff. And you're going to figure out who this guy is. This buckhole dismissed our freedom as an afterthought, noting, quote, I know I respect people's freedom, but when you're talking about weather crisis that we've been going through for well over a year and a half, the time has come. Enough is enough. So basically, this little turd of a human being is worried about a weather crisis for the last 18 months we've been putting up with. And he says it just like Arnie does, only he says it better, right? Like we come in peace. He's saying the same thing Arnie did. Screw your freedoms. Right? He dismisses our freedoms because he wants his mandates. If you want the full spectrum on what this little turd is doing, folks, they're coming after every right we have. The right to be free, politically, religiously. The right to move about. The right to conduct business is being interfered with by the government. And when the government recommends the corporations, folks, to fire people for not meeting their mandates, I call that government interference. I call that, what shall we call that? Is that tortuous interference? I would think so. I would think so. Interfering with the rights of Americans using government authority in the color of law, undue influence, duress. All of these people, folks, in the bureaucracy and elected officials that are pushing for mandates are violating everyone's rights. It's called coercion. It's called duress, threats. Now, I've been putting down President Biden quite a bit, and I'm going to do it some more. How could he look more stupid? How could he look more ignorant? They have now admitted, in an effort to cover up one screw up, it just opens up an entire another chapter of bungling stupidity. Biden told the Pentagon. Biden told the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the commanders, not to send out troops to rescue Americans in Kabul. And you're like, boy, he must have had a good reason, right? Well, yeah, he was afraid of having a Black Hawk Down that would make him look bad. As bad as Black Hawk Down was, folks, in Somalia, as bad as that wasn't 10, 20, 30,000 Americans abandoned as the Taliban anti-American murderous thugs rained down into the city upon them. He's already had something that's beyond a Black Hawk Down moment, but that's what he was worried about. He doesn't want to look bad. Fortunately, the mainstream media has decided to tell us what's going on in Afghanistan instead of hiding it. For once in years, they're actually showing us the news. What a fucking miracle. Isn't that incredible, folks? They haven't shown us the real news in at least 18 months because they've been so busy hiding the inept, incompetent stupidity. I guess they figured they can't hide 20,000 Americans, 30,000 Americans, 40,000 Americans being left behind. And it's being covered and detailed so poorly, no one even knows what the real number is. And he's worried about looking bad if our troops tried saving them. No, that's what the troops do. Sadly, an idiot in Washington, D.C. can make a crappy decision. Not just crappy, folks. Almost practically a treasonous criminal decision. And the military, the good men and women in the military would go in, would give close air support, would go in guns blazing to save those Americans. They would. And they would do it knowing they're doing the right thing. And this idiot in DC won't let them do it because he doesn't want to look bad. They're willing to put their lives on the line, folks. And the president doesn't want to look bad. Do you kind of get a feeling for the flavor of this SHTF? For DC, folks, it's about optics, the way things look and the way things sound. For us, it's eating shit on the ground level. And folks, we've only gotten the appetizers. The shit sandwich is going to get bigger and nastier as we go. People in the military, they're eating it and have been eating it since jackass Lloyd Austin took over the Department of Defense, doing the bidding of the Biden. And he's worried about things making him look bad. I sure am glad, right, that he's so worried about the way he looks. There's something else here, folks, that came out today. Story on Patreon. And it was predicted by me, talked about with you. We've discussed it as best we could. There's an approval that happened this week. And I just can't give you more other than to say everything is a sham today from now. The whole system, Washington, D.C., the bureaucracies, it's all a sham. It's all about making things look a certain way so they can break the American people's will, damage us, our health, our children, everything. Biden's afraid of looking bad. The Taliban's Unit 313 is wearing U.S. uniforms and is armed with U.S. weapons, and supposedly, allegedly, they're guarding Kabul airport at the request of Joe Biden. How does this work? Absolutely. How does this work? Oh, okay, that's right. He gave how many billions of dollars? It was $85 billion worth of equipment and personnel training and other stuff. Aircraft, vehicles, munitions, uniforms, equipment. And the Taliban are helping us. See, we're supposed to believe that. This is more Biden effect, hashtag Biden effect. In fact, I think everyone's supposed to do some kind of hashtag in the comments, Biden effect, hashtag Biden effect. And that would get people over here looking at this video going, what? This isn't the mainstream media. What is this all about, right? What is this all about? What's this channel? What's this prepared mind stuff? Yeah, what's this prepared mind stuff? Welcome back, right? More of the Biden effect. France, the United Kingdom, Italy, Germany, and also now Japan, right, are trying to get their people out of Afghanistan. And France, the UK, Italy, Germany are looking to who to help them? The United States of America? The penguins of Antarctica? No, folks, they're actually talking to Putin of Russia and asking for help to get their people out that the United States military abandoned. Japan is sending a self-defense force plane to rescue citizens as Biden continues to fail. This is beyond a failure, folks. Now let's compare, folks, the number of Americans that have been killed, beaten, robbed, thrown in jail by the Taliban in the last week. Well, we can't count them because we don't have access to those numbers, but we've been told it's happening. There have been reports, firsthand eyewitnesses who say they see things like that. And Watergate was Nixon involved with hiring some of his CIA thugs to go in and break into the Democrat headquarters. Some men from the CIA broke into Democrat headquarters on the behest of Nixon, got caught, and Nixon resigns. Biden has tens of thousands of Americans at risk of being killed by a radical, militant, murderous regime who was given the entire country and $85 billion worth of goodies by Biden. Who should be impeached? Who should resign? Fucking stunning. I mean, folks, and tomorrow and the next day, there's going to be more and more coming out of idiotic decisions made by this guy. And basically the press going, well, yeah, that happened, but look, let's not get rid of the guy. When has this ever happened? It's just news story after news story. The military, the U.S. military, I guess this is the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I guess this is the Pentagon. They have given Joe Biden until Tuesday to decide whether to extend the mission in Afghanistan past August 31st. Now, wait a moment. I thought the Taliban said the deadline is the 31st. Or face consequences. Where does the U.S. military come into this? The U.S. military now is giving ultimatums and timetables to Joe Biden. This is incredible. They're saying Joe Biden must decide by Tuesday, today, whether to extend the evacuation beyond the 31st or not. Now, the reason they gave it to him is military advisors have told the White House that the decision must be made by Tuesday in order to have enough time to withdraw the 5,800 military troops that are currently on the ground at Kabul International Airport. If the president agrees, the military anticipates a few more days of trying to evacuate as many people as possible before the drawdown of U.S. forces begins, possibly at the end of this week. This is asinine, folks. We've got 10, 20, 30, 40,000 Americans. Who knows how many? Let's just say 20,000. 20,000 Americans. We've got 5,800 military personnel, presumably well-armed soldiers and Marines at Kabul International Airport. And they're going to start drawing down the U.S. forces, meaning putting them on planes and flying their asses out. And if the military anticipates a few more days of trying to evacuate people, well, are they going to evacuate another 300 or 400 for a couple of days? Another 3,000 or 4,000 for a couple of days as they draw out the 5,800 military? Now, I just have to ask this question. I didn't go to West Point. I'm not one of those jackasses. I don't have a lot of respect for West Point graduates, even though I know West Point graduates. Okay. I know that sounds kind of well, how can you respect them, John, if you don't respect them? I don't know. How can you be for the war before you're against the war? Right. Never mind. I won't use their logic on them. If the President of the United States and the military command decide to leave 5,800 Marines and soldiers, fighting men, in the airport, on the tarmac, holding that ground, what's the Taliban going to do? Are they going to use our gunships, our armored vehicles, our transport vehicles, our weapons, our munitions, our explosives, our drones against our own troops at the airport? Is that what the consequences are if the military is still on the ground on the 31st? The reason this is so important is these are the types of idiotic decisions that are going to happen here in the United States. This will all be over, hopefully, in a few weeks, and hopefully every single American gets out of there. Hopefully the Taliban all eat really bad food, and they all have upset stomach and diarrhea for about 6 months. Hopefully that happens. Everyone gets saved, and the bad guys have, bowel cramps for 6 months. What kind of bad decisions do you think are going to be made by Washington, D.C., the Biden administration, the Pelosi gang, the Upchuck Schumer gang? What kind of bad decisions are they going to make domestically? And what kind of actions are they going to take domestically that are just off the hook, fucking stupid, regarding lockdowns, mandates, Second Amendment issues, First Amendment issues? Because these mandates and lockdowns have everything also to do with our First and our Second Amendment. How about our, let's just go for it, man. What about our Declaration of Independence issues? Our own government, the United States government up there in Washington, D.C., is now committing every offense that I can recall off the top of my head that's listed in the Declaration of Independence. Those complaints against King George the Tyrant that they felt were so bad that the colonies should rebel. I'm not suggesting that because he's done that and they've done that we should here rebel in the United States of America against the government that is basically committed treason against all of us. Oh, they haven't committed treason? What's going on in Afghanistan again? Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a lot going on, folks. There's a lot more going on. And I pray that behind the scenes, even more is happening to the side of good and righteousness, decency, and that they want to uphold law and order, the Constitution, justice, and everything that truly is American, the American flag. I mean, it is horrifying what is being done, folks. And we're having this conversation. This is not a nightmare that you can wake up from. This is the real deal. This is the real deal. They're going after the Second Amendment again. They are not holding back on anything. They can't do a damn thing right, but they sure can come after our constitutional liberties, rights, freedoms, etc. Let's do this. We're right at the half-hour mark. I've got more things I want to talk about, but I want to know what you guys are talking about. In fact, I've got another 12 topics I could talk about. I could talk for another freaking 2 hours about this crap, but I'm not going to do it because I want to see what you guys are thinking about today. Have I jumped the shark on this? Right? Have I gone off the deep end? Is it really not that bad out there? Oh, wait, yeah. All you have to do is step outside, go down the street, see one person with a fucking mask, and you know exactly what's going on. Okay, Jolene, what do we got? What have we got? Besides the abuses I've talked about, but we'll touch on them again. Here we go. We got Backcountry Preps. He says, have you seen anything from Adam Kokesh lately? Caught his live stream yesterday. A once well-spoken Patriot veteran now smoking pot in his live stream, sporting a man bun. What the fuck? Right. I remember Adam Kokesh. Yeah, he's a patriotic veteran type, and he used to be able to speak eloquently. He could speak to freedoms and rights very well, very articulately, very intelligently. He could inspire. I don't even bother with him. If he's smoking pot now and wearing a man bun, sounds like he's essentially, I don't know, given up, lost hope. And I'm not saying that smoking pot is what's caused it, or growing a man bun is the result of him giving up. I can't explain what's going on with him. It is, folks, really discouraging what has happened in this country. And I want people to be positive. Seeing our government fucking up in Afghanistan is maddening. It is horrifying. And I pray that everyone makes it out of there safe, alive, with all their limbs intact. Now, the good part about them screwing things up so bad in Afghanistan is they're probably going to screw things up here. Folks, we can win this. The New World Order, Great Reset, is not a foregone conclusion, meaning there's no guarantee that the bad guys get to defeat us. But there is a guarantee that shit has hit the fan, and they're going to do everything they can to destroy our precious republic. Remember, folks, and I've been trying to lay things out because I continually get these questions. When's it going to happen, John? When does the shooting start? When is it going to get so bad we have to, we have to be on our own? Well, I said their motto, their slogan in the Illuminati, right, is order out of chaos. Well, if we've got the Constitution and a country in order, then they may need to make chaos out of our order. That's where they're at now. They're in process. So they divide the people into groups, and then they vilify, dehumanize, and demonize us, the patriots, right? They've divided us, separated the patriots off, and then said, hey, country, using the mainstream media, propaganda, psyops, to demonize us, to dehumanize us, so that they can then destroy us, destroy the country in the process. That's what they're doing. And it's part and parcel to their plan. But that does not mean they get to win. It takes months to build a house, takes about an hour with a tractor to destroy it utterly. It's a lot easier for them to destroy this country, folks, than to defeat us and take things over and build their precious, disgusting, dystopian world empire. And they're not going to be able to do it without people cooperating and giving in. And we're under no obligation to cooperate with basically people who are anti-American, who have demonstrated that they're traitors to the country. Why should we continue to help them? Well, I don't think we should. Let us move on, if we shall. We got Uman. He says, the American Civil Air Force was called. They have several planes, each from United, American, and some others. Also heard Lufthansa and some other European airlines are involved as well in the, I believe, rescue effort to get people out of Kabul, Afghanistan. Whew. This is, it's rather tricky and coordinated, isn't it? Let's see, if done properly, this would have been done over the course of a couple of months with some intelligent planning ahead of time. And if the Taliban was mounting and growing in force and power in the nether regions of Afghanistan, don't you think that a military force like that could have been bombed back into their caves with some B-52s or some stealth bombers, some drones perhaps, some maybe space-based weapons? What happened to all of our technology and our MOABs? What happened to all of our gunships and all of our, helicopter fighting platforms? If these people were just swelling and growing like locusts in the outskirts of Afghanistan, why couldn't we just obliterate them? Instead, the Biden administration says we surrender, doesn't give enough time to get people out, doesn't plan anything. And now they don't know where to put all of these people. They've created a humanitarian crisis of massive proportions. And people are panicked. Folks, they've screwed up this so bad. Can you imagine when they pull the trigger on their SHTF let's screw America plan, right? Oh, no more food for you guys. Oh, no more power for you guys. Oh, no more water for you guys. Do you think they're going to have that well planned and thought out? No, they're not. They're going to screw everything up. You have to have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. You have to have it ahead of time. You have to have a plan ahead of time. Let us move on, if we shall. This is something from Two Owls. Where would we be right now if the internet did not exist? In a cave somewhere by now? That is really a good question. Without the internet, where would we be as far as sharing information? It's hard to say, isn't it? Has the internet been helpful to us, or has the internet been a hindrance to us as far as being patriotic Americans concerned about our country? You can make the argument both ways. Let me talk about ways in which it has harmed people, harmed American or the cause of freedom and liberty. It is done so because people look on the internet, they see what's going on, and they go, oh, that's not so bad. Or they look on the internet and someone is telling them, don't worry, we have a plan, we'll take care of it. Or don't worry, those people over there will take care of it themselves, right? They've got the internet, cell phones, and everything else. We don't need to go help them. So it's helped us observe, but also maybe not participate to the extent we would. And I recall, folks, when the LA riots were happening in Southern California, there was a large contingent of people in Northern California, Northern Central California, who were saying, let's get in our trucks, let's get in our automobiles, let's drive down there and help stop this mayhem, right? Let's join in an effort to bring peace and harmony back to the people of LA because of the Rodney King riots. People were pissed off about that. We saw a lot of that with the Bundy Ranch when it was besieged by the BLM, not Black Lives Matter, but the Bureau of Land Management, right? People drove hours, and they drove from other states. They just decided they would go take care of business, and that there's one way to do it, and it's show up with your guns. So if we did not have the internet, people might be more inclined to say, we don't know the true story, we don't know the facts, but we see the threat, we see the danger, we see the risk, and we are Americans, and we need to go do something about it right now, this very minute. So perhaps if we didn't have the internet, our problems would have been solved 5, maybe 10 years ago, because people wouldn't be so apathetic and thinking others were going to handle it, and instead said, well, this is it, right? That attitude kind of happened with, it developed after Ruby Ridge and Waco, Texas. That's when the Patriot movement exploded with no internet. There were underground newspapers, not illegal, we'll just call them underground because there's no internet. And it wasn't mainstream newspapers or mainstream press. And they started sharing information. I used to get newspapers in the mail. I would get letters in the mail, photocopies in the mail of news information. I would get videotapes in the mail of videos that were produced professionally and then distributed so that people could learn. And it pissed everyone off, and it caused the Patriot movement to grow for the first time until the Oklahoma City bombing, of course. So it is a great question to consider, Two Owls. Where would we be now? Would we be in caves, or would we be in homes and more free? It's hard to say. You know, it's hard to say. I know that at one point, you know, there's a fork in the road, the internet fork or this other fork, and both of them are forked up. Neither of them are good. It's hard to say which way, but either way, we are now facing it. You know, people need to get off of their asses. I would say dead asses, but they're not dead yet. All right, we got David. He says, watching another creator, he advised patriots start getting used to, quote, not being liked. I agree that we are quickly becoming public enemy number one. How can we harden ourselves for this mentally? This is something we have been talking about. I believe that we need to get used to not being liked. We're already not liked, though. Courage of your convictions. Have information. What you believe, the information provided, put it together, make a decision about what you are going to do, who you're going to be. And we've done it. And we'll have to continue to as more information comes in, as our mettle is tested or our character is tested. We're already not liked by who? The Democrats. We're not liked by the globalist politicians. We're not liked by globalist corporations. We're not liked, folks, by the law enforcement bureaucracy at the federal level. We, patriotic, republic, Constitution-loving Americans, are not liked by the mainstream media, be it the internet, big tech media, or broadcast media. We're not liked by academia. Half of the world's medical community hates our guts. The other half are on our side, but you'll never hear from them unless you happen to know them. Right? Let's see, social organizations don't like us. Hollywood doesn't like us. Who likes us? Is it about who likes us? Is it about getting used to not being liked, or is it about understanding who you are, trusting yourself, trusting your gut, trusting your instinct, trusting your mind, trusting your faith, always faithful, semper fi. We are public enemy number one to our enemy number one, who is both public and private, domestic and foreign. They're our enemy. If we're their declared enemy, then they are our enemy, are they not? Right? It works both ways. Works nicely, doesn't it? They have declared themselves our enemy, folks. They have made it very clear. The fact that they don't like me, I couldn't give a rat's ass. They're the ones, folks, drinking poisonous Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid for the mind, Kool-Aid for the body. They're the ones who have weakened systems of thought of their body. They have weakened themselves through ignorance, apathy, a desire to be liked by others. Now every white person who has tried to satisfy these radical racist scumbags, do the radical racist scumbags like those white people? Of course not. Of course not. You're never going to be liked. You can't switch teams. You can't convert. Do you think the King of England trusted Benedict Arnold after he committed treason against the United States of America, or at least the pre-United States of America colonists? You think he trusted Benedict Arnold, or do you think he thought, what a turncoat, sellout pile of shit? Let's use him, though. All of these idiots out here who think they're being liked by the government or by special interest groups or by the media, no, they don't like him at all. They think their own people are idiots, folks, because their own people are idiots. Look at what they're doing. Right? They may as well have gone with Jim Jones in the 70s and drank that Kool-Aid. Or maybe taken a zombie formula that converted them into zombies so they can run around the country zombified. Right? All this is going on, folks. I'm not worried about them liking me. I'm worried about my rights. I'm worried about the ability to live, to breathe, to eat, to move about freely. Now, where I just happen to be at, well, currently not right now at this moment, but normally, under normal circumstances, back at the bunker, people in that area tend to like people with my particular attitude and taste. While there are people who have masks, what a great way to identify yourself as a fucking idiot to everyone else who doesn't like you. And you know, so this thing, and it is, you know, I understand, Dave. It's a great question. That's why I'm taking so much time to address it. Is patriots start getting used to not being liked. There's a lot of people who are new to this idea of being patriotic, to defending the idea of their country, to defending the idea of their own personal freedoms. They're just now waking up. They're just now red-pilled, and they're not used to having so many people hate their fucking guts. They're not used to it. Now, I guess I guess I really am a bit jaded in this way. Is that for years and years I have not been liked by a very large sector of the country. They have not liked me in spirit, and they have not liked me personally if they've been exposed to me. Because I guess when we have a discussion about certain topics, right, they don't find what I have to say amenable to them. It just doesn't fit in with them. They hate me, whether we're talking about radical feminists or BLM or Antifa types. You know, they don't like me, and I haven't been liked by them in a long time, if ever. Probably not ever. They probably never liked me, but over the last 20 years, they've gained, let's see, in strength, political support, financial support, and in greater numbers of them coming out of colleges, complete idiots, fools, and morons. So to be afraid of them, no. To worry about being liked by them, no. I've had a lot of experience not being liked, and frankly, I don't give a fuck. Right? They never liked me. No one, folks, lines up and says, John, we're going to give you $1 million. They don't do it to you, right? No one's lining up giving you guys $1 million, $1 billion. No one's giving us countries like Afghanistan or South Africa or Texas. Right? Wasn't the NFAC said they wanted Texas? Yeah. No, it's a great topic, though. Yeah, get used to it. It's not going to get better. The pressure is going to get worse. It's going to get higher. You know, when I lived in California, I lived in a relatively safe part of California. I can't imagine what it's like to live in, well, the county I was born in, Santa Clara, or maybe down in Los Angeles, being surrounded by a much higher percentage of left-wing assholes and not being liked. But we all have our crosses to bear, and we have our struggles ahead of us. And it's good to start putting that heat on ourselves, getting used to it, right? To temper something, to strengthen it. We all need to, right, stiffen up our spines. We need to grow thicker skin, get used to being called names. It doesn't mean you have to like it. It doesn't mean you have to take their shit. It doesn't mean you can't fight back and call them names, right? That's what I do here, folks. You guys support our efforts here to basically tell them to go pound sand. Right? We research information, we talk about it, we provide it to one another. This is an incredible network that we've developed. And I want to thank again Vaughn, Kaz, Uman, Jolene, and everyone who supports us with information, who supports us through our fundraising efforts. It's not easy, folks. This, for me, was a massive struggle just to do this job. And there's people behind the scenes everywhere helping out, right? And most recently, we've had Mr. T come on with some great promotional stuff. And it's been cool, right? It makes the show a little more interesting, a little more entertaining. But we need to continue to recruit people to our side. There's still people, folks. Well, there's some fence sitters who still don't know. And there's people who are on the other side that are now going, hey, 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 I just wanted to be nice. I just wanted you guys to like me, but it's the wrong thing to do. It's not an intelligent choice to make. Maybe freedom is the way to go. And there's people going to figure it out, folks. Some of them too late. Some of them at the last moment. But for now, get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. You've got to have those things, folks. You've got to have them. Time is short. They have divided us. They are dehumanizing and demonizing us, and then they will destroy us. We posted a great picture, and it's been widely distributed in the past. It should be posted on Patreon. I can tell you what it is. It's two Jewish people in pre-World War II Germany wearing gold stars. And essentially, the dialogue that's created is people ask how Germany got so bad prior to World War II, how the Nazis took over and then ended up rounding up Jews and murdering them by the millions. And the answer is, well, it was done slowly, progressively, one rule, one mandate at a time, until there was a point where they realized they were cornered. They had their backs against the wall. They were on the edge of the cliff. and they were done. They did not think it could get that bad. We have history as a guide. We have the internet as a fabulous tool, right, Two Owls? And so we can distribute and disseminate information and let people know the same fucking thing is happening. Same thing is happening now that happened back in the 1930s, Germany. Happened in the 1920s, folks, in Russia, which became the Soviet Union. It happened in the 40s and the 50s in China and continued through the 60s and the 70s. And China's still here as a totalitarian regime. They fail. They cannot exist. They violate too many of nature's rules, nature's laws, and they ultimately fail. All right, let's move on. We got Raka. He says, John, I wanted to know your thoughts on this. Quote, Zion wants to free social media from big tech. This is the first time I've gotten a question from Raka. What I would like you to do is, that's a rather nebulous statement. It also is has multiple meanings or double entendre or triple entendres in there. And I don't want to comment on it at this time. If you would, please send whatever information you have to our email address. Please look in the comments section. Jolene will put an email address down that works, so you can send me your information. Sorry to throw that at you there, Jolene. Part of the fun of being on this side of the camera. Yeah, Jolene's going to take care of that. I want to know what you're talking about specifically, because I don't want to speak of something I shouldn't be speaking about at this time. Backcountry Preps checks in. He says, question, considering the current issues, they've got issues in Australia, do you think if the Aussies didn't hand over their pew-pews, they would be shooting back by now? Okay, this is another great question coming from Vaughn. And folks, Vaughn desperately needs a clipping. His beard has been growing for 4 or 5 years now. I think not only does he have squirrels and birds living in it, but maybe a couple of deer, and he needs to shave that thing off. Just kidding, Vaughn. Anyways, Australia. Let me go back, do a little history on Australia. They've done a lot of gun confiscation in Australia. So New Zealand and Australia have very few guns that are known about. That does not mean there are not underground networks and caches of freedom seed spreaders down there. But for the most part, the people are disarmed. So his question, do you think that if they had all of their arms and the public was well aware of all of the armament, shotguns, rifles, handguns, etc., that they would be shooting at their government by now? The question or the answer is no, they wouldn't. And I'll give you my reasons why. Number one, if they had more arms, the government wouldn't be so aggressive. So they wouldn't have to be shooting. Right? Our government in DC is extremely fearful of us. You, me, all of the American people. They're very, very, very fearful of us. That's why they're trying to scare us. They're trying to convince us that they're the authority figures when it's our country. You see, this is how this works. We have guns and they're aware of it. They know that if we rose up literally with our Second Amendment right in hand and said, that's enough of this shit, and we started taking action, they wouldn't stand a fucking chance. Yes, people on both sides would be injured, but ultimately the bad guys would be removed. They fear that the same way that King Louis was shitting his pants as he stood on the platform in front of the throngs, the crowds, the masses of French citizens calling for his head, which demand was satisfied when the guillotine came down and removed his head from its body, which was then promptly picked up and shown his own body before his brain passed out and lost consciousness. There's a fucking sight for you. So the answer is no. The Australian government wouldn't be as aggressive as it is if they feared their people the way our government fears us. And trust me, folks, the state governments fear the people even more, and the local governments yet even more, because they don't have the layers of protection. They also don't have the miles, right? So if people are, let's see, here's DC, and if you're all the way in California with all of these millions of guns in California, DC doesn't really fear California so much. They fear all these other states around them, but they don't fear California. Now, in California, the governor of California, he fears all of those guns in California. That's why California has such nasty gun control laws, is because they're trying to take away people's guns because they're afraid of them. Now, in a city, the mayors and city council, they're very fearful of the people around them. That's why in, say, maybe a city like Chicago, they like to take away everyone's guns that they can, and threaten them and coerce them, bribe them. But they know they can be removed very quickly. Chicago is not a state capital, and Chicago is not Washington, D.C. Chicago doesn't have at its disposal the National Guard and other military forces. So yeah, that's my answer to that, Vaughn, is they wouldn't be shooting back right now. But they are definitely on the edge of massive violence and civil unrest, and all of those caches of weapons in Australia that are hidden, tucked away, perhaps buried in the ground, hidden in bunkers. They will come out at some point in Australia. At some point, folks, they'll be pushed too far. Pushed too far. In America, there's just too many ways that they're pushing that I don't think this can't happen. And I'll talk about one of them. It has to do with our children, our grandchildren. It has to do with our parents. At some point, people are going to say, we're tired of you mandating things that are hurting people, that are causing death. We're tired of being locked down. We're tired of you telling us we can't go places. We're tired of you shutting down our food manufacturing, our food distribution, our food sales. Food is going to become a huge issue, folks. A huge issue. You see, I felt when, this is years ago, when I said, well, shit's going to hit the fan. You better get some food, store some food. It was, you're going to need food because, you know, things are going to go kaput. And in a couple of days, people run out of food. They are going to shut down our food system systematically to punish us. And it's going to cause violence to break out. And who do we blame? Do we blame the Piggly Wiggly? Do we blame Kroger's or Albertsons or Safeway? Do we blame Publix? Who do we blame? The food stores? No, we don't blame them. You blame the people that caused the food to stop being made, processed, and delivered, the politicians. The politicians and their lawyers. Not good lawyers, folks, lawyers that protect people, but the bad lawyers that take away our rights, our liberties. And most politicians are lawyers. And I believe every FBI agent is a lawyer. Every FBI agent is a lawyer, folks. They're trained in legal matters. They don't really seem to understand the law of the land, but they seem to understand that they can use their power to hurt people. People aren't going to be real happy, folks, in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Shit has hit the fan. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. Before it gets any better. What an absolute mess. Thank you guys for supporting everything we do here. Thank you. We got Super Dave here. He says, was an urgent notice send citizens' friends to leave ASAP, or was this a big surprise to those in harm's way regarding Afghanistan? So regarding Afghanistan, was an urgent notice sent citizens and friends to leave ASAP? It was a big surprise. The civilians in Afghanistan, it was a big surprise. They knew things were changing. They knew stuff was wrong, bad, but they weren't given days. They weren't given weeks. They weren't given months to go, hey, we're going to wrap this shit up and leave. I mean, if they had come out and said, hey, look, the Taliban will be here next week, they would have all flooded the airport a week early and they would still have these same problems. Or should I say, similar problems. Similar problems, because we would have one more week in order for not the government to fuck things up, but the civilian people to get in there and try and help things in other countries. They should have been pulling out intelligently over the span of months. The last people to leave should be the ones who can secure safety. The military. They should be the last ones to leave. It shouldn't be the military pulls out and the civilians run around like a bunch of children screaming their heads off. Right? That's what's happened here. They weren't given any real notice. They were just told, hey, guess what? You're fucked. I mean, look at the government's initial response. You're on your own. We're not going to help you get to the airport. There's no transportation. So hide. Hide? That was the answer from the Biden administration. Hide. You're on your own. Hide. That is what the Biden administration told Americans trapped, abandoned in Afghanistan. Hide from the Taliban. It floors me. And the media would just assume forget that. Hide. You're on your own. Don't send the military out because we don't want a Black Hawk Down moment. That's our government, folks. And they will fuck up the United States of America as quickly and readily as they can. I used to talk about the U.S. economy being like a freight train with 1,000 cars. It takes a lot of energy to get all of them moving, and picking up speed very slowly. And when you cut the power, you've got 1,000 train cars all pushing in the same direction too, and it takes a long time to slow it down. And you can't just speed it right back up. It either slows down or speeds up very, very slowly. Or maybe the analogy we used of a giant freight ship or cruise ship. It can't just spin around. It's not a jet ski or a powerboat. It has to slowly start to turn, and it takes a long time to turn because it's a large object with a lot of inertia, momentum. So here we are, right? The United States government under Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, the Supreme Court idiots, bunch of fucking clowns, the bureaucracies, they're doing everything they can to absolutely stop the United States dead in its tracks. But there's a lot of momentum and energy that's been stored up, but it's slowing down, folks. It's grinding to a halt very slowly. And it's not going to get moving very quick either. You can't just, what's the word they love to use? You can't just goose the economy, right? You can't just pump a little bit of cash in there and have it all be fixed in a day or a week or even a month. That's not how things work. It's just that they don't understand it. They don't seem to understand size. They have no idea how corporations work on raw materials, getting raw materials, natural resources through a supply chain, processing them, turning them to things they need so they can further manufacture them, and then combine them with other technologies. And eventually you have, a television, a washing machine. And then you've got to put those in a warehouse and then distribute them to stores. And don't forget, you have to have an advertising campaign that gets out there through all of the media in order to create one fucking sale, right, of a washing machine or a TV or a microwave or an automobile. It takes years of building all that energy and technology and effort up into producing those things and then making a sale, which produces some form, fashion of prosperity. Incredible stuff, folks. All right, we got Heidi says this question: if the weapons left in Afghanistan are so useful to the Taliban, why is it so useless to the Afghans? That's a terrific question, because see, the Afghanis have basically been living for about 20 years now, relatively free. The Taliban are ruthless, murdering thugs, period. They will chop your fucking head off or execute you in the street. And that's one of those gun wounds that you just can't dodge, right? A barrel to the back of your head. And sadly, the Afghan military that we've been training with and working with, what have they done? Well, they basically just laid their weapons down and said, hey, we're not going to fight the Taliban. They never had the confidence or the belief they didn't, if the United States can't defeat the Taliban, the United States, England, Canada, Australia, and other countries that were in there as part of the Free Afghanistan coalition that was started almost 20 years ago, if they can't, we can't stop the Taliban and defeat them, what made the Afghan security forces or military think that they could single-handedly, without direct foreign military involvement, think that they could? Well, they know they can't, and so they just laid down their arms and swore fealty to the Taliban, right, and said that we serve the Taliban. They spared themselves, folks. They're willing to live, sadly, they're willing to live under the yoke of the Taliban than to die on their own feet as a free man. That brings us to this point. How about you? Do you value your life more than your liberty? What is most important to you? And see, for me to say, well, you know what? My life is important and I really want to live some more years. And I'm willing to do that as a slave, as a medical experiment, as a political tool. I'm willing to live as an abject moron, no longer trusting my own brains, but following blindly and stupidly everything that comes out of the mainstream media or shows up across my desk or in the mail coming from my employer who makes demands of me. And I'm no longer living my life, but I'm living a nightmare created by government, corporations, and assholes that never have liked me, don't like me now, and never will. Would I rather live that life, or would I rather resist them, risk my life, my fame, my family, my fortune? I don't know if I'm going to risk my fame. I don't know where that came with. What did the founding fathers say? Our lives, our families, our fortunes. And if you happen to be famous, you'll lose that too. In fact, that's really not a bad thing to bring up. There's a lot of famous people who have lost their fame. They're still famous, but they don't benefit by it. Right now, they're picked on. I'm sure. Wouldn't it be great if the radical feminists were able to capture me and put a collar on me with a chain and handcuff and shackle me and march me through the streets wearing nothing but a tattered loincloth and saying, look at this, we finally captured John, we've defeated him and broke his spirit and his will, and we're going to make him serve us really bad coffee from Starbucks. Right? They would love that. People, they don't love you. They're not going to love you. They don't have your best interest at heart. That's where freedom comes in. You have your best interest at heart. We all do. That's why freedom creates prosperity and it creates happiness. Right? Freedom allows us to be who we are, to be fulfilled in who we are. Doesn't mean we're all going to be successful in one fashion or another, but at least we have our lives and our will and our initiative to do it. While these idiotic slaves out here are going to be satisfied, so they think, falling in line with whatever dogma and doctrine that comes out of Washington and Hollywood, and that they're going to do their master's bidding and pretend like it's their own, and like they're going to take joy in knowing that these elitist scumbags are eating lobster and steak every night while we get to eat mealworms and bugs because that's what Bill Gates wants to farm for us. How do you want to live? Do you want to eat bugs and fake meat? Do you want to be treated as a medical experiment the rest of your life? Do you want to slave and toil for the benefit of others and not yourself? It's up to you, right? The people in Afghanistan, they just laid down and said, I guess we'll just live under this other system then. So they looked at the United States as a master of sorts. A much happier master, a much fairer master than what they get with the Taliban, but they still chose to live rather than fight. And the Taliban probably does not outnumber the free people in Afghanistan. Whew. But here in the United States, we, the patriots, definitely outnumber all of the scumbags in power and all of their minions who would do their bidding for them. And they know it. And we have a Second Amendment. This is our country. Don't give it up. Don't give up on yourself. Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Semper Fi, folks. Always faithful. Godspeed to us all. God bless America.